Good evening. Welcome to Biddle, to Big Daddy Linux Live. I am not Rocco. I'm not Big Daddy. I am a father, but but not a big father, I guess. Anyway,
You're an
welcome.
average,
I'm an
yes.
average. I'm an average size father. Not nearly as cool as Rocco either, but hey, there we go. So I just want to say welcome to Biddle. We are set out to have a talk about tech around this virtual water cooler. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. We do have some things on the docket. I can assure you that. But first, I want to thank Rocco for starting the Biddle community, where I truly felt like a member of the nicest group of just welcoming, intelligent people of varying phenomenal skills and abilities, and a whole range of whole gambit of capabilities. So I just want to say welcome and find out what we've been doing in the world of Linux and open source. If nothing, that's fine. Just say hanging out or whatever. Um, I don't want. Is there an audio check? I want to make sure that we are okay on the YouTube. Do you know? Well, it must be. No one's saying, "Hey, I can't hear you," so it must be good enough, right? All right, Eric. Thank you very much for the usage of Zoom. Nothing against Jitsi, but thank you for the usage of Zoom.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, I just figured I have the account anyway. Just thought, hey, why not? Jitsi was great. There was just a couple technical limitations, like all of the images, the thumbnails weren't being shown. And I know for folks watching on YouTube, that was a little off-putting because you could see the two people conversing, but everyone else was just a little box, and that was a
Yeah,
little odd, I think, for folks.
I think it was.
I don't,
I tried messing with those settings to see if I could fix that, but just wasn't happening.
yeah. Also, that intro there where you were buttering us up, I was waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, we're going to sell us like cryptocurrency or something was coming after. Oh, it's still okay. Wait, go ahead.
Funny you should say that. So today, somebody on Telegram hit me up for like, "Hey, do you want to invest in cryptocurrency?" I'm like, it's like,
Oh gosh.
thank you very much for thinking of me and for reaching out, but currently I'm investing in tangible things. So, you
Well,
know,
I don't know because I read an article yesterday where Dogecoin, apparently, if you would have invested $1,000 on January 1st, you would have over $100,000 right now in
missed that
Dogecoin.
boat. Yeah, which isn't Dogecoin like it was like a meme. It wasn't even a real
The
thing. It was
joke,
just kind of
yeah, it was
yeah,
a
it was a
meme.
joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go.
Ha ha ha! Isn't that funny? The joke is, where is that value? That's what I keep thinking is like, okay, eventually this stuff is just going to not have, and maybe not. Maybe I don't see it.
Well, it's like
Right.
Bitcoin. Bitcoin. A few years ago, people bought Bitcoin when it was like basically $1 a coin, and then it skyrocketed. It went up to like $300 a coin or something like that, and then went back down. Now I think it was like, I don't know what is that now, but at one point I think it was like $46,000 a coin or some
It was a
growth like
lot.
that.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if those people that had kept their coins when they sold them at 300 and you just let it bounce around and got to that point, yeah, they would have been filthy rich. Now my brother does the crypto mining. He got a couple boards from overseas, from China. They're miner boards, and they hold, I want to say it's 8 video cards each on them, so that you can just have those little mining rigs there. And he's got 2 of those set up, and he's got a couple other computers that he's got set up, and he makes 50. He's got everything up and running. He makes about 80 bucks or so a day just in crypto mining.
Hmm.
Which is not horrible. I mean, I guess it's not horrible. I don't know. I don't know anything about crypto mining. But so he makes, that's what, 400, that's $560 a week. So
Yeah.
a couple grand a month.
It's not terrible, but when I think about, I get some of the ideals of, distributed currency but it does kind of bum me out whenever I think about the idea that in order for it to function, it takes so much resource, so many resources to do that. The heat energy that's produced, all of the equipment, the fact that you can't buy a video card anymore, just
Yep.
it's a little bit of a disappointment to think that, and also it continues to get more and more difficult to maintain the blockchain, apparently. And again, I apologize for anyone out there that actually knows what they're talking about with crypto. It's not, and I did not intend to open a can of worms about crypto. It continues to amaze me that it just keeps going and going and going. And
Yep.
I'm a pragmatist, so I think about like when is it going to hit the fan? Because I just feel like eventually it has to, right?
And it has, as I guess technically in some point in time it had with Bitcoin, because the fluctuations are so great that at one point in time, they, like I said, it hit like 46,000, but a year or so it's going to be back down to like 50 cents or something like that, and then somebody's going
I
to
hope
buy
so.
$10,000 worth of it and then wait for
I
it to
mean,
go back up to 46.
I don't want anyone to get hurt by it. I really don't. I mean, I don't want someone who sees this as an opportunity, because look, there really aren't great investments. I mean, if you were to try to do a traditional Roth, or not Roth, a CD, or you're trying to do like a traditional money market account, or just like an investment vehicle, interest rates are nothing. There's no money to be made there, right? You can get like a 5-year CD and they pays like nothing, right? And so I get it, right? Where do you put your money? And so, everybody's responsibility. Well, the stock market, obviously, because it's doing so well. But that's another thing where I just kind of feel like, man, can it just keep going forever and ever? But anyway, that was the longest introduction ever. We're 7 minutes past. I apologize. Let's move. Let's move on.
Well, here's actually I have a funny little anecdote for you. So my anecdote. So my I come from an immigrant family, came from Europe, and when my grandfather, he financed his. My parents are old, and so am I. He financed when he went to finance his farm. He was given these options about you can finance in these different currencies, and being that I come from peasant class, he didn't understand these different financial like things. Like you invest it in, you can finance against these different currencies or different um, uh, values essentially. And he said he's basically, because he was uneducated, he says, you know what, I'm going to finance it against the currency I understand, which is wheat. I know how much wheat this land will produce, and so I know I can meet my yearly or whatever the mortgage was on it, or whatever they call it, hit the note on the value of wheat. And so then the Great Depression happened. Everybody lost their farm, but my uneducated grandfather, who didn't know anything about currencies, because it still made the same amount of wheat, regardless of what the economic system did. So he kept his farm. And I consider myself uneducated too, and I'm okay with that.
Oh my. Eris has patiently had his hand up for a couple minutes.
Fire away, Eris.
I just noticed they changed the logo for the hand. I just wanted to say about the cryptocurrencies. I'm not an expert by any means. I don't even own cryptocurrencies. But my understanding is Bitcoin is, of course, the first cryptocurrency. So it will always have a place as long as it exists. And mostly the other currencies have something to set them apart, except Dogecoin. It's all hype. It's all because of the dog logo. There's nothing backing that. Some of them have like are used for anonymity for like Monero, I think.
Yeah.
It's the one that you can't see what the chances are. So that has a place. Obviously, there's some worth there, some value, but some of them are just like Dogecoin is just pure hype.
Well, Dogecoin is pure meme. We should understand that Dogecoin is basically propped up by Elon Musk making a joke of it and nothing else. So he made a meme out of it, and everybody's buying it because he joked about it.
You put his name on it, basically, quote unquote.
Basically, yeah. Even though if you actually read everything seriously, he writes. He even wrote that that just like everything else, you should watch out how you invest in cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Something I don't understand.
Well, me neither.
No.
Here, a lot of people, when they were taking credits for houses, took them by the basically the currency were the Swiss francs, because that was the stable currency and wouldn't change. And then stuff happened, and their they had to pay a lot more because get from euro to Swiss francs, and the exchange rate got bigger and everybody had to pay more. So yeah.
So Peter, it's nice to see you this evening. What have you been doing in the world of Linux? Or yeah, did I interrupt
Well, you
something?
caught me eating. By the way, talking of currencies and such, do you know that the Scots invented copper wire?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was two Scotsmen fighting over a penny.
Well,
So
there
you're
we
allowed to
go.
make that joke.
Oh,
That's
I'm
right.
not allowed. I haven't been
Well,
doing too much. Right now, I've got PC Linux OS on my laptop, keeping Ali happy.
Oh, good.
Solus is doing well. It went for a good upgrade the other week, where it had known 40, and also there was a point increase in budgie. It's all working well. I haven't really done much with FreeBSD in the last week or so, but I look forward to doing some more.
Well, excellent.
Peter,
Yes.
we have our own penny pinchers here, so here in Slovenia. So yeah, and folklore goes, they are basically offshoots of your guys.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Yeah.
It's all
Whoever
good,
asks, it's a joke. At the end of the day,
for sure.
So Jason, you were telling us about your cable management skills and how well that goes. So
Yeah, about that. Just so everybody knows, if you own cats and you have, everything, every cable managed, zipped, zipped, or I use the Velcro ties, so they come easy part Velcro ties, and I have these. Everything was under the desk, attached with like their I don't know what you call them. They're like adhesive clips. And I had all that done, but then I looked at when I was dusting around the computer today, and stuff like that. I noticed about 20 cats stuck in between, worth of cat fur stuck in between all my cables and stuff. Because the cats get back there and they go underneath and they rub and they, it's just everywhere. So I had to undo all that, hours and hours and hours of cable management. And I have, tons of I have 9 monitors in my room right now, and I have 4 desktops, 4 laptops, Raspberry Pi, and I have all these cables that I had to take down, wipe down, and then reconnect, put back together, and then I looked at it and said, one cable tie here, one cable tie here, one cable tie here. That's it. Because there's no way in the world I was going to go through that in a couple of weeks. That was like 6 hours today of tearing down everything and getting it back up.
well, but it's nice to have when it is done that way, because over the years, I started out, my office was that way. It was all nicely cable managed and everything was, I had put a couple sets of clips. So I had actually 2 layers of wires where I had one set where I could easily pull out like network cables and certain things, and then another set that weren't going to get moved very often. Anyway, over the years, I got a little lazy and started putting things in there that weren't included in the bundle. And so I've not been feeling physically all that great over the last couple years. And so my wife had to get under there not long ago, and she was like, "What is going on under here?" I'm like, "It all makes perfect sense. I know what every wire is, so don't touch anything." She's like, "Oh, you're lying through your teeth." It is. It's such a mess now.
It
and
is.
if you don't stay on top of it, man, it just gets out of control.
yeah.
And when you're like me and you're constantly adding systems and changing things around and moving around, and like I build computers all the time. Like we have 4 systems, my brother and I, that we're going to be building here soon. And we just build them for fun. One of them we're building for a friend of mine. We're getting him ready because all he has is like a 8-year-old laptop or something like that. And so we're building him a computer so he can game on it and stuff like that. But anywho, so I only started getting into the proper cable management in the last year or so, and then I'm already over it because it's too much work. I've got everything like the what do you call it, the surge protectors. They're attached to the bottom of the desk, so they're underneath.
Yeah.
Oh,
So all my cables go back anyway, so
Mhm.
there's nothing really here anymore, but it's all down there. And so what I did was when I attached them all, I just took the excess cables and put like 2 Velcro straps on them instead of bringing them all the way across. But then I have
Yeah.
another one that's way over here in this corner. It's a another power strip, because that's what I used to have my laptops over here. So I'd run the laptops under to there, so the cable that's plugging them in runs all the way under this desk, all the way to the power
Oh
strip over
man.
here. So yeah, it's
It's incredible how many, I have probably 4 or 5 power strips around my desk in that area. And it's like, how could I possibly have used that many, plugs? It just doesn't seem. But what it comes down to a lot of times are the wall warts will take up 2 or 3 places, right? So I always think, oh, I should get those little leads, right, where it's just 3 inches long, just enough so that you could plug
Yep.
those in. But then it's like, how much effort do I really want to put into wires behind my desk that no one ever sees? So I don't know.
I hear you. So I mean, I've got, if you turn my camera over here, right there is another power strip that's attached to my shelf, and that is for the lights, the alarm clock. That right there is the cable modem. So that's all. That's that stuff. And then I have the 2 machines over here, the Mac and the Linux box, that are connected to under the desk. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the amount of cables that
Jason?
I had to deal with.
So Jason,
Yeah.
aren't you supposed to separate out the bridge from engineering, not just combine them?
Well, no,
Uh,
because they actually all connect. They're just in separate rooms.
Yeah, well,
Technically, they all still
I'm just-
connect.
I'm just curious.
Well, that's why I went the simple solution, a laptop, and then reality struck me. Now it looks like someone on a life support. Wires on the both side,
mhm.
but it's
Yep.
it's at least just 5 wires.
Well,
and,
the trend.
and then you look at the floor, and it's a red nest of random Ethernet cables that go to my server, to my laptop, out of the room, and it's 5 cables.
The trend now of just a few ports on laptops means that you've got all these dongles, and
Yes.
so I've got a USB hub that's like that of 4-port, and it's just this
Mhm.
huge mass of wires hanging off the side of my laptop, which is
Yeah. I have
Well-
this, same thing with my desktop, my main desktop, and with all the USB whatchamacallits I have for that too, like the camera, the headset, this, that, and the other thing. So I've got the 8-port USB hub for that.
The fun
Meanwhile-
part is when the USB port then dies on a laptop. That's when the fun part starts.
I've never
I
had a
have
port die.
3 ports working, and USB Type-C port that I used quite a bit for the USB drive now doesn't work for some reason. And
Who knows?
the guys at service center don't know how to fix it, or more correctly, they know they could fix it, but their device shows them it's working. So it's working, and they can't do anything about it. And so I have that port. Fun stuff.
Yep.
yes,
I've
indeed.
never had a port on a laptop fail unless it was like physically damaged, like where, like I've received used old stuff that like looked like somebody maybe decided they'd hammer a nail in with their USB port or something like that. But outside of that, I've never
Yeah.
actually seen a port fail on a computer, and I've taken my
Well, I
computers to
don't
awful
think-
places.
I don't think here the USB port itself is fault, but somewhere in it, because electrically I think it still works. It just, I think the internal stuff doesn't work correctly for it, because if I had that USB port connected to anything, especially my USB hard drive, when it was working, it quickly decided, oh, I don't want to work anymore, and the whole USB bus just died. So everything that's connected on USB just died.
I guess it's
And
yeah. I mean, I
doing
guess it's possible.
transfers, fun.
Yeah.
Or it could be I just have some lint in it, it doesn't make good contact. I need to clean it up.
Maybe got some goat hair
Could
in
be.
it or something. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's.
Well, more laptop back here, but yeah.
Nice.
You
Goat
have
hair.
cats. You have cats as well.
Well,
No.
I've heard
I
that
just have a laptop bag, and that's
I've-
enough.
I've heard that goat hair in particular is very conductive, so that could be a problem.
Yeah,
Could be, yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it is.
Yeah. Hey, Thomas. How's it going?
Oh yeah, I'm doing good. Tried to figure out what window my cursor was on.
Oh, the Gandalf meme.
Yes. Yeah. I'm doing good. Not much in the Linux world these days. I have a laptop here. I am waiting an SSD coming so I can install Linux on it for a friend's father. What can I say about it? It works.
Well, that's nice though. So they asked you to put Linux on it, or did they? Well, no. So
Yeah.
they asked you to fix it, and you're going to put Linux on it, or did they specifically say, "Hey, we want Linux on this"?
It's a little bit of both. So they came to me wanting some data recovery. It was running Windows 8, Windows 10, one of those two. And the dude did not know what his password was in order to sign in. Thankfully, I was able to get in and get all the data off because he had some pictures on there he wanted. And I explained to them that I can reinstall Windows on this if you want, but that's going to be like $100 or more, depending on the version of Windows you get. And the thing started out with 4 gigabytes of RAM, and it's dual core, no hyper threading. If you're lucky, the CPU will boost up to 2 gigahertz, but normally only boosts up to like 1.8, 1.9. So it's kind of bad. And it has a hard disk drive, no SSD.
Okay.
Spinny.
Spinning Rust. Yep.
Indeed.
So what I told them I could do is I could install Linux on it, and that wouldn't cost them anything. And I can do tech support for them if they need it. And of course, the lady who handed it to me, this is for her father, she said, can he do what he typically needs to do? Facebook, email, that sort of stuff. Mostly web stuff. That's like all he does. I'm like, yeah, he can do that, no problem. So I'm going to install Linux Mint on it, so it's something similar to Windows. And then I hate to say that I'm going to do this, but I want to make sure he's comfortable with it. I'm going to swap out Firefox for Google Chrome. So that way he's comfortable, because I figured that's what he's using. I'll probably leave Firefox on there just in case, but definitely putting Google Chrome.
If everything he's doing is in a browser and you try to switch out a browser, that could actually make a difference. 'cause
Yeah.
if the buttons are in a different place and stuff.
Or then if they sign into the account and sync it. So
Yeah. Right.
they could have all their
Yeah.
favorites already stored as well. But quick question there, Thomas. You said it was going to cost them $100 more to put Windows on there?
It can if you actually get a legit activated version of Windows.
You can get an activation key for like $10.
Really?
Yeah, but that's actually a bit questionable.
It depends on where you're
Yeah.
going. It depends on where you're going.
Yeah.
But I've seen like my if you get them from like my brother does that when he builds all the system he builds, he goes and buys like a stack of them or whatever from like off, I don't know where you get eBay or whatever he gets them, but
Yeah, that's gray
Yeah,
market right
those-
there.
Yeah,
those
I'm not
sure
I
they're
think
totally.
those are
yeah.
OEMs,
Yeah, no.
which are actually
Yeah.
If I do it, I'm going to be going straight to Microsoft
Questionable.
for that, because as much as I hate Windows, I want to make sure that you're
that he
able to
doesn't
do
run-
all.
Yeah.
That his computer doesn't get locked out or something.
Well, and
Um,
the bigger issue really could be performance as well. Because I mean,
Right.
when I set up this older laptop for my daughter not long ago, I tried to put Windows 7 back on it, and it just did not. I mean, it ran, but man, it was painful. So
Chugging.
yeah, so I stuck I put Ubuntu on it, and I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
She uses it just the same thing. She uses Firefox.
Mhm.
That's it. That's really all she ever uses. That and some paint programs and stuff. But
Mhm.
Anyway.
Yeah. I knew since he did mostly browser stuff that 4 gigabytes of RAM, it'll work, but it'll be a little bit iffy, especially these days. So what I did is, as some of you may remember, I had a laptop that got nuked about a year ago at this point when we were distro testing Solus, and it refuses to boot now. Thankfully, it has 2 RAM sticks in it. Both were 4 gigs. So I pulled a RAM stick out of that one since it can't boot anyway. Tossed in this thing. It's the same type of RAM, so it works just fine. It's got 8 gigabytes of RAM now.
Score.
And I'm just waiting for an SSD, and it'll be a small SSD. I told her to grab a 120 gig one because if you're on the web most of the time, you don't need that much storage.
Yeah, that's going to be enough.
Yeah, and he didn't have that much data on it anyway. It was less than 100 megs, so it's not going to be an issue for him. But I figure doing that, it'll at least feel like he got a huge upgrade, even though you've literally spent like 30-40 bucks, if that, on an SSD, and that's it. And you're using a used RAM stick.
The biggest upgrade is going to be, and it's what I've seen from all the ones I've dealt with, is you put an SSD even in an old system and it's like magic.
Yeah, it'll boot up so fast in comparison.
I still got to do that for my Mac.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who has a very similar laptop to this one, and he has told me he has been a Windows user for a long time, but being around me for years, and another dude who was on here forever ago, Amolith, he's been inundated with Linux and how Linux is better, and he's finally succumbing and has said, fine, we'll install Linux on the bad laptop. So I finally broken him, and I'm going to do the same thing to that laptop, except I'm going to give him a bigger SSD because he actually does play some games. So a little bit of storage, even though the laptop is absolutely terrible pre-Ryzen, but it can do something.
Yeah. Hey, and with game streaming, I mean, that's always a thing that could be a solution too, you know?
Yep.
So,
but
that's really great. That's good news.
That's most of what I'm doing these days, is just waiting for that SSD.
Nice.
Cool. That's it.
I have to say, personally, on every machine I put an SSD, it was like a breath of fresh air on them. Like, like it could be an older machine. You throw an SSD on there, it's like, whoa, it feels like a brand new computer. So, I mean, for what it's worth, SSDs are pretty great, and I was very slow to adopt such a thing. Shame on me.
Yeah, same.
Mm-hmm.
Jinda, what do you got going on in your world?
I got more of a same kind of thing that Thomas went through, but it's more of a question.
Okay.
A friend of mine asked me to fix his computer for him, so I gave him my horrible laptop. Yeah, I know, right? And they gave him my horrible laptop. I go, here, we'll use my horrible laptop while I fix yours. Are you in a big rush? And he said, no, not really. So I took his laptop, Windows 10, and I started going through it and everything. And it, time takes time, and he lives out in the middle of nowhere. And it turned to be like, maybe let's say a month later. Well, he calls me and he goes, that Linux laptop you gave me, I have more bandwidth now. And I couldn't understand what he was saying because he's on a cap. Because he lives in the middle of nowhere, he is on a cap. He only can use so much, and then it slows way down. He goes, it never slowed down. Well, we figured it out. Evidently, and this is my question, does Windows 10 really update that much stuff?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because
it does so much stuff in the background, it's insane.
Yeah. Evidently, he noticed how much that machine updated. And I said, do you want Windows 10 back on it? And he said, hell no. Do you blame him?
No.
But I didn't know
I blame your ISPs.
Okay. Oh, we're right. Of course.
Yeah. Well, and that's another instance where if you've ever run a Pi-hole or heard of that type of system, you'd if you were running it through there, you'd be able to see the query log of all the DNS queries that machine's making. And it is somewhat unbelievable how many DNS queries a Windows machine and then some, other types of machines in your house make. And just those small bits of traffic, added up, really, when it's 5, 10, 15 different pieces of equipment doing that, if you can cut out that chatter, it actually does make it, the congestion goes down. It's amazing. It's not heavy traffic, but because it's so much constant chatter, it really does pull away, take away from the overall throughput of the network. So that's cool. That's really interesting that he noticed that. I mean, it's what did he mean, right? Bandwidth? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I didn't understand. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, it always slows down at the end of the month, and it never did. And I said, well, okay, well, why? Did you do anything different? Not really, not that I know of. And then evidently I looked up how much bandwidth.
So
blame Microsoft.
See, that's when you were supposed to be like, well, of course, here, let me
butter it up.
That's right.
I wouldn't blame even Microsoft, because at the end of the day, Microsoft is doing what is right for most people, because people should be getting updates regularly, especially normal people, because I've seen laptops with years of not updating. So I think the automatic updates for those people are actually in about 75% of all updates okay and should be done.
Yeah, and I get the phoning home for specific things. Like I get it, but there are definitely, when you see hundreds, thousands of queries a day from a device, there's something that's lazy code, that's bad code,
that's problematic
in
its own way, because it's actually telemetry, and even telemetry is okay in certain cases. Actually, I'm a big supporter of telemetry if done properly, which is what Microsoft has done, and I'm going to fault them for that for many years until they change it. But that's a big thing. But the reality is, at the end of the day, it's your ISPs who are at fault, because who the hell in 2021 still puts caps on a freaking internet connection?
Yeah, well,
especially if you're paying for the internet.
I actually on a internet connection, I never saw a cap. I never knew those existed before I started really using internet and reading about stuff in America. And
the best part is that a lot of it's arbitrary. They won't even tell you exactly what the number is when they start throttling you. It's just they call it excessive. So, you think, well, what does that even mean? So, it's a little unfair, to say the least. And I'm just happy that I finally have a fast synchronous fiber connection.
I understand the cap on a phone connection, because it is air bandwidth you're using if you're connected all the time. But even there, it really doesn't, especially now with 4G, 5G, it really doesn't make sense. But at least the numbers I have are normal.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that anymore, though, because honestly, I think at the time that made sense. If you were talking 10 years ago, when 3G,
now it's just collecting money.
Yeah, now they're building out the networks on purpose to be, high throughput, and I think it's a legacy mindset where it's like, how can we upcharge? They desperately do not want the dumb pipe scenario where it's just like, the only thing they can charge for is the connection itself. They so badly want all those fees and all that old mentality of
reality is, only thing I have capped on my phone bill is internet. Everything else is unlimited. And sooner or later, even that will be unlimited.
Yeah, that's one of the first things I did with my internet. Was I made sure I asked them. I said, "Are you capping this at a certain point?" And then they're like, "Yeah, it'd be 1 terabyte a day a month or something like that." And after that, you got to pay, X amount of money per what you use past that. Plus, it's going to be throttled or whatever.
That's your wireless. You're saying?
No, this is my internet coming straight to my house.
You only get a terabyte?
I only get a terabyte too.
Yep. But see, I paid.
Wow.
I paid for an extra. I paid for the unlimited, because
I would be in trouble. I would be in big trouble.
So was I. I use an average of 3 terabytes. 3 terabytes of data a month.
I would kick their ass.
So I that's one of the first
limited.
things. That's one of the first things I. That's why I asked right away, and because I was going to the gigabit internet, and so for an extra $20 a month, which to me is worth it, because I'd rather spend an extra $20 a month than an extra 100 plus or whatever it is when I go over the cap. So I got the unlimited plan for $20 a month extra. So I mean that's how they can. That's how they're getting you. They're they're
I
giving you
have
that extra
no
fee
no
as you're talking
extra
about.
fees, and I have unlimited with no sort of hidden caps. I could on my laptop or any cable connected or Wi-Fi connected device, I can go to however high I want. They cannot do anything because they do not specifically say in their package description that they have some sort of cap. If they don't say that, they can't have it
It's
because
such a
otherwise they get problem with law. And
yeah.
I have been known to press on them if this stuff happens because, well, my internet didn't work how it should. I grabbed my phone and called them, sometimes multiple times a day, until they fixed it.
Squeaky wheel.
Well, I'm that guy. I can't
It
take
works.
bad internet. And once a guy came in the middle of Saturday to fix my internet because a router kept dying.
Well, hey, and that's for the
Well,
longest.
then I got fiber.
Well, for the longest time, they treated it as a nicety, like, right, it wasn't like an important thing. But now, I mean, I would argue the broadband, especially with the current situation, so many people working at home, like, it's not a luxury anymore. You need it, you know.
Yeah. Right.
So
Yeah.
anyway, Mr. Bourne, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. It's good to see everybody.
Yeah.
It's been like forever. Feels
Yeah, I
like.
think it's been
kidding.
since
No
October
kidding.
since you were on last, I believe.
Yes, I did join one of them in the YouTube chat, but yeah, since I've actually been on camera, it's been since October. Yeah, it's been a long time. Glad everybody seems to be healthy, right? Everybody's doing all right. I know I'm doing okay.
Ambulatory and ventilating. That's usually good.
Yes, absolutely. In terms of Linux, man, like I went through a wave last year with the project that I was on. It's got me. I have PTSD over that thing. I mean, I'm still working on it from like a feature enhancement development standpoint, but launching a major lift and shift of an entire corporate ERP system doesn't matter. It's not fun, especially when you go from one crappy software to another one.
Ouch.
Because we literally went from Oracle, like e-business suite and Hyperion and JDE and all that, over to basically SAP and Informatica. So, which is pretty miserable.
Do you use those databases, SAP HANA, that basically take
it's
the terabytes of RAM?
Oh, it's horrible.
Those things are horrible.
And it's so
those take terabytes of RAM basically.
Yeah, and the thing is it's so like even the Oracle stuff, even the JDE stuff in Oracle, like it was easy to get to. Like you might have to look up the table structure because it was all, it was all generically named. But in SAP, like you can't just like run a query against the SAP backend. Like with JDE, you could just connect to the Oracle backend and run queries and at least get data out of it. But like the way they have this S4HANA stuff set up, like you have to use special software, go to special people, and it's like you can't even really get really good connections to stuff. So I was doing that for a long time. So I didn't really, there were days where like I was done after 12, 13 hours of work. And I'm like, yeah, Linux, not happening. But the project went live in March, so it's up and running, and all the production support has been punted from me, so I don't have to deal with any production support right now unless they have oddball questions. So
bravo.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's awesome. So I've been jumping back into Linux the last probably the last month or so. As a matter of fact, guys following it on Telegram, I've been having lots of like just weird things. Like I had this extra drive, like I wasn't using in my desktop. it's been running Windows because, the kids, they play all their games on Windows. And like, I really haven't even done anything with Steam or anything in a year. So like, I'm going to install Linux on this drive. It's only been, 8 months since I've done any of this stuff. What could be the harm? What a fiasco that was. Like, you think after so long, you just like, you really forget what you're doing after not doing it for a while. Like, it's crazy. I did find out, I think one of the problems in this machine though, is like, I really wanted to put something archish on there, like a Manjaro or an Endeavor. And I kept trying it and it would get through the actual trying to like create the partitions. And then I would just keep getting these, input, error reading input output to drive. I was like, well, that doesn't even make any sense because the drive was working just fine. So I played around with it. So I think what the problem was is I think it was a bad cable. Because I've got an IC dock plugged into this thing, right? So I tried it in different ports, and one port it seemed to work okay, but that's the primary port that I boot the Windows drive off of. And if I put it in another port, it wouldn't read the drive at all, or I would read it sporadically. I blew everything out, and I'm like, nope, that's not it. So I put in a new cable, and then I actually switched to a different drive because I had two 500 gig. I had an 860 Evo, and then I've got an 860 Evo Pro. So I decided I put the Linux on the 860 Pro, which is a slightly newer drive anyway. And like literally 15 minutes before the stream, I had MX installed on this thing. I had software downloaded. I was good to go. And I was like, hey, this actually looks like it works now.
I was going to say, those are good drives. Those Evos are good drives. So.
Yeah, I did. And that's the thing, right? So I ran the smart control stuff on it. And like that other one said that it passed everything. Like I ran the long test and, the one took 85 minutes to run and everything came back clean. So I honestly think it was the cable, but I did kind of two lift and shifts at once. I said, well, let me switch drives and let me change the cable and see. One of those two things have got to fix it. And that was it. So, yeah, other than that, the other thing I've been trying to do is like pseudo reconstruct some of my Linux style workflow on my Windows laptop for work because I don't really have the option of running any of my stuff. Like they give me a laptop and like, there's no way I'm going to get a lot, especially that proprietary Informatica stuff, even though the back end runs on Red Hat at work, like none of the front, the UI stuff or the dev UI stuff will work on Linux at all. Like I've tried it and it just won't do
they
it.
probably have some Active Directory stuff and all that other stuff too.
Yeah. So what I've been trying to do is just come up with better ways to like make it a little bit more in line with how I like to just my workflow in Linux. Right. So
I might have a tip for you if you can. Of course, this is highly dependent on how it's a bit of a stretch because it's a work laptop. But if you install the insider build of Windows, you can use VSL and run GUI apps in it. So you have basically all of your Linux workflow on Windows.
So I have WSL on there already. So I'm assuming that if I've got WSL on there, I could probably get WSL2 with the GUI stuff. And or maybe not the
GUI stuff is still in the insider preview.
Okay, so I think I'll probably have to wait.
Yeah,
because I don't think it's an insider laptop, but I definitely have the developer ability on that laptop. So
well, you can install insider builds through updates on settings. It's a couple of clicks and you then get a 10 gig update to get to the latest version.
Nice.
And then you cry when it reboots 5 times.
Yeah.
Will it work? Will it work? It works.
I do that anyway because they're constantly updating the software, especially so for some reason they decided that they want to migrate. They're migrating. They migrated away from Skype and went to Teams, Microsoft Teams, which I don't have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
But they had signed this big deal with Cisco like a couple of years ago. So they still have all the Cisco WebEx stuff that they use. So it's like half the time these things conflict. And like half the time when I try to go into a WebEx meeting because Teams is still running, because that's how I do all of my, communication. Like even on that laptop, which is the engineering laptop, it's like the new P54. It's like 32 mega RAM. It's an i7. It'll just drag to a halt. Like it's horrible. And if you look at it, it's basically because WebEx and Teams are spiking the GPU because it's one of those hybrid deals, the integrated, the dual graphics. It's got the Intel and the NVIDIA, and like they just don't like each other. Those two.
It's funny that they're trying to render something using your. I mean, I guess they're trying to offload the video rendering or whatever, but anyway, I've been using Teams with a customer of mine on Linux, and it actually works really well.
Teams works fine as long as I'm not trying to, have Cisco open at the same time. But they're constantly jumping back and forth. Do a Teams meeting, do a Cisco meeting. I'm like, can't we pick one platform here, fellas?
Well, WebEx is a horrible platform anyway.
WebEx is awful.
Terrible. It's terrible.
I didn't. We at school tried to use it once, but didn't succeed.
Yeah, we use it. We use it at work as well. We use what do you call it? The VPN, the Cisco AnyConnect. We use that.
Yeah.
We use we use all kinds of different things Cisco wise, and we have too many things that the bank is switching. They want to go to Teams. Currently, we're using something called Mattermost, and they want to switch to Teams because it's obviously a more robust program than the other one. So that way they get rid of Skype because they don't need that Skype and Teams.
Yeah, Mattermost is more of like a Slack clone in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought Teams was also a Slack clone, though.
It is, but because it's Microsoft, it does a lot of. It has so many integrations with all of their other stuff. So
like Skype and all that stuff.
I've only had I had one professor, no, two that wanted to use Teams, but nothing else in the school runs on Teams. So.
Well,
didn't happen.
Is more of in the same space as Slack, but much more complex and much more everything. I would argue
I would argue that Teams is actually more useful because of those integrations, because you really can the way the rooms work, the way it's just it ties in with Active Directory
Azure Active Directory.
Azure, thank you, Azure. I mean, it's actually really nice. Yeah.
Does Slack have any voice chat ability, or it's still without it?
I don't know.
Wait, it didn't have voice chat?
Slack.
I don't know.
I don't think Slack has any voice chat.
I always thought it did because I remember, I got a Discord account in middle school, and I remember somebody telling me about Slack and looking at it and like, oh, this is like Discord but for businesses or something.
Looks like Discord.
I guess I just assumed they had voice chat because Discord did.
I don't think it has. Or if
it has Slack calls.
Well,
that's the same thing.
All of these platforms, just like Discord, it's never enough to just be whatever it is you are. You have to everything has to have voice and video. And rooms and and they're all horribly bloated and complex, and I think it's a real shame, actually.
That's one of the downfalls when I worked for Apple was that everything we did, except for when we're taking phone calls, that's the only time we didn't have to be on video. But we do anything else in video. We're meeting with our team, or we're meeting with our manager, or whatever. Everything had to be on video because it was something that Apple wanted. They wanted of all the talk Apple has about privacy, they want to make sure that you're on camera so they can see into your junk. But it's because they want to verify your workspace, because Apple is very, very huge about when you work in a door, you close your bedroom door, lock it, no pets, no family members, none of this, because a lot of the Apple Care is work from home, period. Because they're all over the world, whatever. And I mean, I didn't care. I turned that sucker on, and just a second ago, like I had a little tail on my face. I don't care. I'm like, it's my house.
You belong to Apple, buddy. Don't you forget it.
Not anymore. I don't work there anymore. Thank the Lord Jesus.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, I'm back at the bank, and nothing is on video.
There you go.
Nice.
Well, Daniel, that sounds great. And other Daniel, so how you been
Hi. I came, I think, the second week after Biddle came back, and then didn't
Mhm.
make it for a little while because end of the year was kicking in, and finals happened. Finals are
happens?
now over. And I'm staying over the summer to work for the school IT department, and I'm waiting for my summer apartment to be ready. It's apparently somebody who didn't move out when they were supposed to, or
Mm.
something. Uh,
It happens.
so yeah,
That's cool. What are you going to be doing with the IT department?
all of the things that we can't do during the year when people actually have to use the computers. So re-imaging everything, and upgrading monitors in certain labs and that kind of thing. Basically, everything that has been, again, waiting for support. Yeah, that needs to be done and can't be done. Well, someone has to use that computer.
You get to
all
go
the
see
upgrades and stuff. Yep.
Yep, you get to go see how dirty a computer can get before it explodes.
Yeah.
See all the dandruff and all that stuff that gets stuck in there. Then see how dirty the hard drives get for people that put on the illegal stuff they're not supposed to put onto those things on there.
Well, in theory, the hard drives get wiped every night, or not wiped, but like reset to a specific position. We got a program called Deep Freeze that does that, but it doesn't always.
No, it's still
work.
there.
I know. Deep Freeze is not perfect. I know this for a fact.
Oh,
yeah.
And there's like this one computer lab where it's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, there's like 6 computers you cannot use in there because there's just some random bug or something that they won't turn on. Or this software doesn't work. And then also the instructor station we were getting calls about very frequently. So eventually, I think they just stopped using that particular room. But anyway, we're going to fix it now. So
have fun with
for good
that.
this time.
Well,
we hope so.
Software.
No, that's great. Sorry, go ahead, Pod.
Deep Freeze is a fun bit of software. I remember how we were guessing the passwords for it when I was still a student. So we could install games on those computers. And yes, once you figured out one password, you had a password for the whole class. Because
of course.
Then everything had games on, and professors were angry. And that happened that we had to, during the class, re-image all the drives in the middle of class.
Listen, it's important to make sure that those machines are running at their peak performance, and games are one of the best ways to stress test the system. Everybody knows this.
Well, I don't think anybody
to showcase how insecure school is.
It doesn't. People don't have it. Well, okay. One thing is you have to know the keyboard. You have to know we're using Deep Freeze, which I only know because I work in the IT department, and you have to know the keyboard shortcut. And yes, you can guess the password, I suppose, but like our password is not like password or admin or anything. And then also
admin 123.
People don't. It doesn't reset unless it reboots. So like people do like just in the computer in the alumni student center, which is basically like the lobby / living room for the entire campus. People will install Minecraft and Steam and everything on those computers and play games on them.
Minecraft is pretty harmless, right?
Yeah, it is.
Sure.
I don't even say that's educational.
There'll just be a forced reboot at like 3 a.m. that'll wipe it, and they'll have to reinstall it the next day.
It happens. Oh my goodness.
Well,
Bill, what are you cooking me, brother?
I'm making burgers and bratwursts.
Burgers
Delicious.
and brats. That's a good combo. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're gonna have a fire before the rest. All of the Western U.S. is in a drought again, and it's fire season, so we'll have a fire to go ahead.
Right. If I remember correctly, you get fires periodically not far from you, and you have to evacuate. It seems like that happened.
That was a couple years ago. We had a wildfire that we had a forced evacuation from. That was fun.
Yeah.
I have an idea for you. Just prepare some bratwurst, nicely packaged. Just throw it in a wildfire.
Yeah, just kind of hold right on the edge of the wildfire.
Yeah, that doesn't work real well. So I just wanted to stop by.
Firefighters will have something to eat then.
Yeah, that's
In the
you know
middle of-
they'll be more likely to come to your house if they smell the
Yeah.
food, right?
The really funny thing about saying that is the wildland firefighters are on a completely strict diet. Everything they do is because the energy they expend working. They have everything is like completely. They can eat this. This is what they have at this hour. Drinks.
Oh,
It is, and it's not. That is not a job for anybody that is not in super shape. Like Nate could
Yeah.
probably do it, but it is backbreaking, and
Yeah.
it's not on a fire truck with a hose. You got like chainsaws,
Yeah.
rakes, axes, and so
Well, just the amount of liquid they sweat out in a day, doing that
And-
kind of work. Yeah.
they're not. They're wearing like heavy duty like
Mhm.
stuff, so
Yeah.
they don't burn. And
As someone who has worn those suits with vapor barriers in them, yeah,
oh yeah, but it's different though going into like doing house, structure fire stuff in wildland. It's like totally different world. And talking to those, they have like they're afraid of houses, man. They're like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to be out here and
where I can run away.
and it was a couple years before we had the evacuation. They had the wildfire in Arizona where the 19 wildland firefighters were killed. So
Yeah.
and that's just like instant. The flames just go over. And I'm sorry, this is really depressing the stream now.
Yeah.
But
No, that it is a talk about a unbelievably dangerous job
Yeah.
that where you have to have your wits about you at all times. Yeah.
Those fires are crazy.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
but I
No
just
doubt.
wanted to, come by and say hi because I haven't seen you all, and I think Nate was getting sad that he didn't talk to me. And I haven't talked
I
to
was.
you, Eric. I've chatted with you for a little bit, but I haven't actually talked to you.
I know.
Like almost a year or something
It's been a
close,
long-
man.
it's been a long time.
Months. Yeah, so it's good to see. It's good to hear your voice. It's good to see everybody else on here.
I know. That's what I was saying to Nate. I mean, this is, like he said at the beginning, we're all very grateful that Rocco, brought us together. But I'm very appreciative that Nate took the initiative to, to get us all back on here together because
I want to
been too long.
I want to give credit where credit's due. Michael Vash is the one that actually kind of kicked me in my complacency and said, "Hey, I think you should do something." And I'm like, I'm not Rocco. I'm not professional. So, and somehow I got the keys to the castle. I don't know how that happened. A lapse of judgment by Rocco, I think.
Wait, and here's a name we haven't heard in a while. Scrapjaw's in the chat.
Oh, excellent.
We're gonna make you come in and play music
us out.
for us.
Please
Oh
do. That's
gotta
been
play
like
us
a
off.
year, more than a year
It's
since
been
I've
a
heard
long
him play
time.
music out. That's
Yep.
that's so. Before
That
I
was
leave,
fun.
I want to just tell you, Nate, you have to change your name because every time I see Biddle in Biddle, I'm like, what is going on? It's like some
So-
wild.
I don't know what happened there. Like, I didn't do anything. All of a sudden, like, my name went in there was Biddle, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know how to change it. So I think maybe like I maybe got the keys to the pickup truck and I ran it through the front door. Maybe is what happened there. I don't know exactly what's going on, and if I can fix that, it's one of those things, I guess. Well, maybe I can.
It's awesome though.
Yeah.
So it's 7 here, so I'm gonna head off. It's good to see everyone.
Good seeing
So,
you,
yeah.
Bill, or at least your avatar.
Yes.
Good to see you, man.
That's how I always imagine
We'll
you
have to
look like,
catch
too,
up.
by the way. Yep.
Yeah, it's very close.
Hey, hey, Nate.
Yes.
Did you let this last guy in?
Always. He's got a nice face. He's got a very friendly face. He's
Oh
got
my goodness.
I like to say he's got the kindest face on the internet, as far as what I like to say.
Oh, brother.
Like if I
No.
wasn't weirded out about people like touching me, I would absolutely give him a big hug. So just an e-hug, just in case, because it's right here, e-hug.
He looks. I don't know. He looks like he might be a good hugger. You gonna
He's-
say anything,
we've
or
got
are
a
you just gonna
hugger.
let us keep going?
I guess you're talking about me.
Yes, Steve. We're talking about you.
Ah,
How's it
you
going?
guys are too sweet. Going
Something
okay.
like that.
Hopefully you can't hear my neighbors down. They got like 2 huge tents up. They got music playing. They're
Can't hear it.
Socially not distancing, and
COVID party.
I'm
It is
just
a big
I'm glad it's by
party.
you and not me. That's all.
They have a full tent in their backyard and a full tent in their front lawn. So it's
if they have fans going, it should be okay.
yeah, I think I only see the top of the tent. I don't think they got sides on. Although it's pretty cool out tonight. It's down about 50 right now. It's been getting a little bit cool in Chicagoland. Otherwise, it's going good, guys. I'm glad to see you here, Nate and Eric and the rest of you guys. Haven't done a whole lot this week. We were busy at the store getting ready for Mother's Day and that. Been playing a little bit. I didn't get into it too much this week with Manjaro Gnome. I got an icy dock. Finally got it working right. I still got Peppermint on my main.
Of course.
SSD, and then
do you have a 4-bay or a 2-bay?
4-bay, yeah.
Okay.
And I have Pop OS on another, and right now Gnome and Joe Gnome on a third, and I got the fourth one empty right now. Painting what I'm going to put on that, but it's nice. I'm enjoying my time. My laptop's got Pop OS on it, and really enjoying it. It's I know a lot of people. Oh, it's GNOME and the memory and all that stuff. I heck with that crap. It's really it's one of the first distros that I've really kind of used that I really, almost like Orion, I haven't changed anything. I had 2 more extensions on it, the clipboard extension and GS Connect, and that's it. The rest I haven't changed any of the settings or anything like that, and it's just, to me, a beautiful distro. I think Pop OS, the System 76 people do a excellent job preparing this, and I can't wait to see Cosmic.
That's the name of what they're putting out, and
yeah,
that's in June or something.
Yeah, with 2110, I think.
Okay.
They're waiting a little bit, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think they really listen to their people, and it's a nice feel. I love using the system.
I have a non-Linux question for you.
Okay.
What is? Well, maybe there's a couple questions, but actually, this is popping in my head. What's like the biggest selling item for people getting mothers from like your store? I'm very curious. Is it candy? Is it like cards?
It's a little bit of everything. We had a bunch of flowers. We sell a lot of flowers. We'll be busy till late tonight, probably early tomorrow morning, because all the guys will be going, oh my God, I got to get this.
Well, yeah. And in case anyone was wondering why I'm asking the question, tomorrow is Mother's Day, in case any of you have forgotten.
But mainly flowers, the guys come in, they'll buy whatever they, most of the women are well prepared, and it's a big portion of candy, gift cards, flowers, balloons.
Okay. And then my second sort of offshoot with that was anything really bizarre. like mom's she really needs this snow shovel, or like, I don't know.
Nothing like that. No, I don't.
No?
Okay. I don't think,
right.
You won't find too much bizarre with us, but one never knows. We do have a certain aisle with certain products to it. Who knows?
All right. Well, I'm done. I'm done asking you goofy questions.
Thank you for being here, Steve.
Oh,
appreciate you being
for
here.
having me.
Well, as far as like things in Linux for me, I guess I didn't throw that out there. There's been a couple of things. Both are Raspberry Pi related. One is actually because of Bill, who's gone, and also because of Eric, who first put the bug in my ear. Then I didn't have Raspberry Pi free at the time, but since I had a few, I did install Pi-hole, and I am amazed, without like tweaking any settings, just the standard amount of like things to block. I'm amazed by how much traffic, how many queries it blocks. It's like 50% of the queries, which comes to like 20,000 in a day that's blocking, or something in that neighborhood. And I'm just like, really? Now, I didn't notice any throughput improvements, but I do notice that when you go onto a web page, like when you load a new web page, that does seem speedier, and there's just like less some of like those boxes, that watch, like the Amazon box thing. That is more responsive too. So it fixes those.
Like
I don't like
Fire
those things.
TV.
Yeah, Fire TV, whatever it's called.
Gotcha. Well, funny enough, are those the devices that are making the most chatter, or
it's
have
actually
you been able
Google
to identify?
Yeah, it's Google Analytics actually makes the most chatter by not. I mean, like number one is Google Analytics, and then number two is just like if you look at the bar of like the graph, it's not even a contest. I mean, it's the Google Analytics is probably like 80% of it. So
now, it's because it's ubiquitous, right?
Sure, it's everywhere.
Have you noticed that it was being too aggressive and you tried to go to a website? This is what I ran into, is I put my whole house on it and used a default set of lists that unfortunately I guess were a little too aggressive. And so my wife kept getting in touch with me saying, I'm trying to open this coupon from Michael's, or some store or something. And when I click the link, it's telling me I can't load the website. And I'd look at the query log, and sure enough, whatever it is that she was trying to load was part of this default block list. Have you run into that where you're seeing that happen, or not yet?
Not at this time, but I'm still. Okay. So I'd say it's still early days. It's only been on for a little over a week now, week and a half or so, just over a week. And so I haven't run into any issues yet, but I guess we'll find out. But everything's been great otherwise.
Okay. Yeah, I ended up having to take her off of it because she just it just kept happening. So, and she doesn't care, honestly. I don't think it bothers her as much as it bothers me. But now that I don't have ads, because it's an effective way to block ads on devices as well, right? Because I mean, if your computer browser already probably has an ad blocker, and it's probably not going to make a big difference. But on a device, and especially in apps that have ads, that will block a lot of those. And now, once you get used to that, and then you don't have it, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's right, this app is really terrible when I have to use it with all the ads in it. So
right,
cool.
Good stuff. So I do have a top. Well, I'm going to go into distro. Talk about distro news, but not really news. But I did a poll in the BDLL Telegram group because Fedora 34 is released, and when basically what are people most excited about, like as far as what desktop environment they plan on running, and I'm surprised but not surprised. So 40% of people were Fedora Workstation, the GNOME version is what they were interested in. And then the second place, which is not too far off, at 32% was a Plasma spin, the KDE Plasma spin. And then it drops off pretty quick after that. XFCE was next at 16%, Mate at 12%, LXQt at 8%. And then I thought this was surprising, but 8% also i3. You could choose multiple in this, so however many you're interested in. So i3 tiling window manager, and then it was server at 4% and Cinnamon at 4%. So I kind of expected Cinnamon to be higher. Maybe there's not. Maybe Fedora doesn't have as good of a polish on Cinnamon. I haven't tried it.
Believe it or not, it's actually one of the better ones.
Really?
I would say, Mint is obviously the best because it's their desktop environment. But yeah, when I think of all of the Cinnamons I've tried, the Fedora spin is very, very well put together. Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was interesting nonetheless. So I've not actually done Fedora 34 yet. I haven't had the time. It's distro testing is one of those things I do, like when I have some white space and I want to play. That's kind of what I do. I like to test other distros out, and I have a test machine for that. And I haven't had a chance to really dig into that. Has anybody else here tried Fedora or is using Fedora? I know if Chris was here, he would be chatting away, but he's not.
I did the beta, but I had to stop because there were a lot of crashes in that, so I waited. I might try it again.
Just the workspace, or I'm sorry, the workstation, or did you do one of the spins?
The GNOME.
Okay.
So I gave Fedora 34 later on in the beta a try when I knew they were going to be doing GNOME 40, just to see what GNOME 40 was like. I had some minor issues. For some reason, it didn't want to launch in a virtual machine, but when I made a live USB and booted it on actual hardware, it worked perfectly fine. So I don't know if that was just me or if it was my virtual machine or what, but overall, it's okay. So.
Okay. Changes in
Yeah,
Fedora 40, or I mean, in GNOME 40. Does anyone have any comments on that? Sorry.
It's a big change to me. So I've been using them for over a year now, and pretty much exclusively. I mean, I will fire up Cinnamon or Plasma or something like that. But day to day, hands on a computer, it's GNOME, and it's a big change. It's a very big change to have that activities overview instead of having your virtual desktops along the right hand edge, which I'm just used to at this point. I guess so. Anyway, to finish that thought, so to have them be vertical now, I'm sorry, horizontal now instead of vertical, that's a little weird in the muscle memory of switching, because one of the things that GNOME does is dynamically allocate desktops. So as you need them, you just keep bumping down, and it'll just keep creating more. So the weird thing is, instead of up and down, now it's left and right. And it seems like a small thing, but in your mind, I mean, if you're thinking spatially and visually, right now everything is up and down for me, and in 40 everything's left and right, and that is a substantial change that you really have to kind of wrap your head around. Now, the advantage of that is that you can see much more of the desktops themselves. So instead of this little thumbnail that represents an entire screen, you have a much larger representation. I guess the reason that's interesting and why people would like that is if you, instead of using the keyboard shortcuts to move a window to a different desktop, that you were actually using a mouse to move them between desktops. I guess that would be much easier because your target would be much larger, not only to grab, but then to drop as well. But I just use, Control Alt and then arrow keys, or Control and Meta key and arrow key, whatever the shortcuts are, and whatever happens, every distro can be a little different. But so yeah, that's a pretty major change. I guess I'll just have to see if I get used to it. But
now,
yeah.
Can you change it back to being on the side, or is that not something that's customizable?
I don't think so. I think this is one of those things where GNOME, in true GNOME fashion, have just made a decision that this is the way it's going to be. And I apologize if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm just saying that I believe that this is a decision they've made in a direction they've decided to take. And I'm sure there was good thought put behind it. Like I said, it could be much more touch friendly, or because you wouldn't have keyboard shortcuts on a touch interface. So you would think that maybe having those presented that way would be much easier to touch and pull things around. Anyway, I think there's probably huge advantages if you're thinking about the workflow in a certain way. Probably not the way that I'm using it, but anyway.
Well, I guess it'll probably be less work for Zorin OS in the future then, since they change all that to being in the bottom for their,
or something
their
like Manjaro, where they have the desktop layout tool, where basically they've made it so that you can do a Mate layout, you can do a Windows layout, you can do a Mac layout, you can do a traditional GNOME layout. Yeah, so but that's all done by extensions. So I assume once all the extensions catch up, because of course all the extensions broke again.
Sure.
Because why not?
That's the way it goes.
Yeah. So once they all catch back up, I'm assuming you could probably, I'm sure someone, like to your point, can you change it back? I'm sure someone will write an extension that, it'll just make it like classic pre 40, layout, something like that.
Right. So classic, but not super classic GNOME, essentially.
Like the new classic,
right.
Not the old classic,
right.
The new classic.
Right. Exactly. Because the old classic's Mate. So maybe there'll be another fork. Maybe there'll be another fork of GNOME.
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome. Awesome, not awesome. Well, anyway, I thought it was interesting. Anyone else been playing with Fedora?
Well, I'm very curious to see if anyone has played around with Pipewire.
Well, I know that, Eris? Was Eris using Pipewire? I thought he was also using Pipewire. Oh, and welcome, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Joe.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Yep, you're still...
Actually, I haven't used Pipewire.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
I think Vash was playing with Pipewire.
I know
maybe.
he was quite successfully.
Yeah.
And I think Jinda's got his hand up. Like, he's so...
Yeah, I tried my best and tried to install Pipewire, but unfortunately I could not get it to work. It looks difficult at best for me, to get the information on how to do it. And that was like, since no one else has tried it, I guess no one else has tried to install it.
If your distro doesn't ship it by default, you're gonna have a hard time doing it. It's a pretty complicated process.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So if I want to
this
try
is what I got from all the talk that is around this.
I just want to... I know that Vash has had really good success with it. He pretty much says it's ready to go. I don't recall what distribution he was using. I want to say it's probably an Archbase. I could be wrong. Jinda, what were you using as your distribution?
I use MX Linux.
Okay. So talk to Dolphin. I know he's in the chat. He can probably tell you all about the Pipewire.
Yeah, he probably... Yeah, he would definitely know.
Yeah. So Joe, do you have is your mic working? Nope. Still not.
Not yet.
Close, I guess.
There's someone who needs Pipewire.
It's probably Pulse Audio.
No, I think he's not running. He's not running Linux. He's our one non-Linux guy. That's why he's having problems.
That's right. See, there you go.
Wow.
Oh, is he running Windows?
I blame Zoom.
He's probably running Super Nintendo.
No, it's... That's right. He's on an Xbox.
Goodness.
That happens. It's good. So whenever you get in, just to start talking and say howdy. So we're just gonna keep on trucking.
Keep on keeping on.
I have great respect for Fedora for doing things like that. So Wayland, pushing hard on Wayland, pushing hard on Pipewire, pushing hard on, new versions of GNOME, like just having no fear of getting that stuff out there, and that's a big commitment on their part. And I'm happy to see that from those results that people know about the spins. I actually had complained to the Fedora project about the way their website is, because if you look at the main page, the spins are all the way at the bottom of the page. So you really don't even know, there's a workstation, and then there's links for like Silverblue and all this other stuff. To get the spins, you have to scroll like almost all the way to the bottom of the page. So if you didn't know any better, and I just think that's a disservice to the people who are maintaining those spins, because like I said about Cinnamon, all the spins I think are really, really well put together. There's nothing, they don't do any like crazy customization. Like you think of, goodness, what is it? Garuda that does all of the crazy customization. That's like a new Arch thing that I've just heard of. But anyway, they don't do that. They're not like making it all custom and, bespoke, whatever, but they just have a very clean out of the box experience. Anyway, I think it's a shame that they put it so far down the page and don't like make it front and center. So I'm glad to hear that people are aware that they exist. Their Plasma spin is fabulous. They're, all of them are great. So.
Yeah, I think Fedora's really come a long way in the last year, even. It's amazing the progress they've made in the last year. And I think I heard Joe.
I think I did too.
Maybe you did.
Yep.
Yay!
Yep.
All right.
We on the wrong audio device?
Yeah.
See, there we go. That's what happens.
Oh, we got the Super Nintendo working. Score.
He did. So Joe's a buddy of mine. He's a semi-local friend. He's not really local anymore to me. He's probably good distance away, but he's a bit of a technology technophile, maybe a little bit, I would say. But he does some very interesting videos on retro games, and I really enjoy that. So.
Oh.
And I just started the process of writing a new one like a week or so ago. I just got to sit down and focus and actually do it. But
yeah,
it's starting to come together.
And he's very quirky, and it makes me laugh. So I'll watch his YouTube videos, and I'll belly laugh quite a bit because it's Joe. So.
Why don't you put your YouTube channel in the chat, and then I'll put it in the YouTube chat.
Hey, thanks. I can definitely do that.
Okay.
Let
Good
me get
deal.
that pulled up here.
Does anyone have anything else on Fedora that they want to bring up? But I do agree that Fedora is like they're very very forward leaning, and so the technology that they push the technology envelope pretty rapidly. And even though
I
it's
haven't
not
tried it yet, but
you should.
I do have Fedora on the USB. I'm trying to decide which laptop to put it on. That's my dilemma right now. And also found out just now, actually looking at their, because of Eric here mentioning go all the way down to the bottom of the page, they actually have a ARM-based version of the Fedora, so I can actually play it on my Raspberry Pi.
Cool.
Hey.
So I put for everybody, I pasted the link to Joe's channel in chat. So I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Thank you.
The thought I had on Fedora, I actually installed it as a secondary boot on this laptop. It is great. They do have a lot of forward leaning things. It's well put together. The thing that sort of hits me was it takes a long time to get it all put together the way you want. If you do RPM Fusion, you have to add all those repos in, and DNF is not a fast package manager. I mean, yes, you can tweak it and there's some things you can do, but it is, I mean, in my experience, it's a little slow to kind of get all that, together. And then, just putting all of those pieces together by the time you get all the drivers installed and for me, it's the hybrid graphics, but and then all your software. I mean, it was a couple hours of concentrated effort to get it done, and this isn't a negative thing. I'm just saying, like, it's surprising to me to think like so Fedora, and I think this is what they do right probably for a lot of people, is that they don't make a lot of decisions for you. They really just give you the sort of the baseline, the foundation, if you will, and then it's up to you to make a lot of those decisions yourself. But it does take time. And it's the same thing I've found, that if you do an Arch install from scratch, it's the same thing. Like, Arch is great. You make all these decisions and you can customize it and install everything you want. But you're saying that, and then several hours down the line, you're going, yeah, this is great. Here I am reinstalling these programs. And when I complained about this earlier in the week to someone, they said, well, what about dot files? What about, batching this together? What about being able to restore from a backup? Or there's ways you can cut that down. But I was like, I think I'm kind of gotten to that point where I don't want to just continuously hop and like, if I spend so much time preparing to switch to a different system, like, that seems like it's a waste of time ultimately. I don't know. So anyway, that's a random thought on Fedora. It is nothing against the quality or anything like that. I think they have done I completely agree with you. I think from like the mid 20s onward, it has gotten unbelievably good. Like, each release has just gotten better and better and better. And 34 has, right along with all the rest of them, has been very, very solid, especially considering, again, how many things they've changed out. I mean, I didn't have any errors, any like random problems. So I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, Eris put in the chat. He says DNF is better now, not super fast, but faster, and that is true. I would say that DNF is way faster and way more feature. It's that a lot more features are put into it now than even like a year ago. When I tested it a year ago, Fedora, it was it didn't. There's some things I couldn't do, like I could do in Zipper, but I couldn't do in DNF. But I have to use like the RPM. I remember which one. I wrote it down because I don't remember these things. But now DNF is feature parity to Zipper, and I don't want to, nothing against Zipper, but I think DNF is starting to pull ahead on it. I think they're doing a really good job. That project is doing a really good job of making things just run great. So, and Michael Tennell Tux Digital says use the KDE Plasma spin of Fedora. He says try that one out especially. So, and I did, and he's right. It's very good.
Of course he would. When DNF hits the right server, it will go blazing fast. But there is a there is a very high chance it will hit some random server that you don't know where it is, and it will basically slow down to a crawl, and then you're gonna wait years and years for updates to come, because you have almost no control over which server it will actually hit. Like, for example, on Ubuntu, on Arch, you select which mirror it hits. Here, it just connects to the ubiquitous mirror manager and selects it on its own.
Yeah,
and
I have done I mean, there's a set of commands you can run where it won't check to see. It's less aggressive about refreshing, and they're, and you could tell it what country you're in. And so, I mean, there is a difference between stock without making those changes and then when you do make them. But even then, compared to Pac-Man or, apps or something like that, like, it is much, much slower. And I don't, maybe that's just the nature of RPM. Maybe there's a whole thing around how that RPM works. I don't know enough, honestly, to understand why it is slower. Just from an end user perspective, I noticed that when I use it. So that and DNF Dragora, whatever the UI is no bueno.
You don't like that? I like it because it's very.
Was that good?
It personally, I like it because it's very reminiscent of when I first started into Linux and doing the package searching and how you can do all the tweaks and whatnot. It's very, I feel like you got all the levers and controls and buttons for you to mess with, and I kind of like that. I mean, that's me though. I like it.
Yeah. So not to keep jumping around, but Joe, I have to say, Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt. I mean, come on, that is such a classic. How many hours of my youth did I spend watching that dog laugh at me?
Just wishing you could shoot it.
Oh my goodness.
You can actually do that in the arcade version.
Oh, you could?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I've never played the arcade version, but I've seen videos of it where there's like a bonus level and there's all these ducks flying around and the dog's jumping up, and if you shoot it, it'll like come back out covered in like, smoke and whatnot and crutches, saying, "Shoot the ducks, not me."
That's funny. Well, there's a bit of I don't know, is scuttlebutt the right word? News on Audacity. I'll put a link to the article in the YouTube chat.
Great.
Yes, I think this is good conversation. So
this was a giant funding. Let's say
so it's interesting. So Audacity has decided that they want to include some telemetry in the software. Now, I know there's a lot of different opinions on telemetry as far as should you or shouldn't you, but it does look to be an opt-in, and also looks like the distributions themselves, like Linux distributions, have to activate it when they compile it for the distribution. So it doesn't look like it's going to really affect Linux users, but it looks like it probably will affect others. I
read a couple of different things, and basically everything I read said something different on the same thing. Some said it was forced on everybody. Some said it wasn't forced, it was opt-in. Some say it was basically whatever information they could grab. Some say basically just really base information, and then actually what is true or not is
what they said was telemetry is strictly optional and disabled by default. So no data is shared unless you choose to opt in and enable the telemetry.
Yeah, and that someone verified that independently, so that is a correct statement. And I have to get it out of the way. I have to get it out of my system. I'm sorry. They had the audacity to try to do this, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I knew that was going to come from somebody.
Yeah, I know.
It's the joke you have to do. Like if you're talking about other stuff, there are some jokes you need to do.
Otherwise,
I
it's
had
a
to do
missed
it.
opportunity.
Anyway, I'm with, so Big Pod was talking about this earlier, and look, these people have been developing this application. I mean, Audacity's been around forever. I mean, talk about one of your long-lived and also widely used pieces of software. And I get it. I mean, nobody likes data, especially people who are conscious of the fact that it happens and don't want it to happen. But the idea that it's opt-in, not enabled by default, and that in the information, the payload, they specifically gave the payload. They said what it was, and yes, there's a unique identifier, but there's no information. And I guess people can say, well, your IP address is in there, and then there's a unique ID from your system. But again, I just kind of go back to where is the real harm there, especially if you have to turn it on and you choose to. So I don't know about anyone else, but whenever an application I'm using pops up and says, we'd really like you to share data with us so that we can understand how you use this program, I immediately say, yes, sir, you got it. You know why? Because they need the information. And I'm not the one that spent hundreds of hours, thousands of hours developing a piece of software. Could you imagine how odd and frustrating it would be if someone asked you, and I asked someone this question about Ubuntu last week, I think, where, do you have information on adoption rates and this, that, and the other? And they're like, no, we can't, we don't have that info. We can't collect it. And you just think, really? You can't know, because people get really upset about it.
Yeah, they get really upset about it. And it's kind of crazy because at the same time, especially in open source, people go, no telemetry bad, but at the same time, they complain about programs not tailoring to how users use it,
or the quality, right? There's this bug that has never been fixed, or so they won't go report a bug, and this is like the passive way of doing it, right? To see how someone's using it. The way they explain it, it's like, what filters are people using? How long is the session, right? Session begin and end. What export formats? So just real basic usage information.
Stuff you want to know if you're making such a program to actually prioritize certain stuff, to make stuff people actually use better.
Yeah.
Because of that, people will start using the program or continue using the program, because you will actually get better compared to your competitors, or at least stay on equal playing ground. Because at the end of the day, if one of your competitors will collect telemetry, that one will have an advantage automatically. That's the reality situation.
Yeah.
So for me, if they ask nicely, and it's open source software, like Max Henny said, if they ask nicely, then I'll say yes every time. But if I don't trust, or if the project maybe has a little bit dubious, then I might think about it some more and just say no. But for the most part, I will say yes to helping to improve the project. That's what they were doing, generally speaking. I mean, they're not, if they're not hitting me with marketing stuff, I'm totally cool with letting them know that I'm using it for one, and anything they need to know, especially crash reports. I want them to have that if I get those. So.
Yeah.
For me, it's pretty rare that they say no to telemetry. I think there is only one real case where I will say no to telemetry. Even there, I at least give them basic telemetry stuff that they should get, like usage and the work time and stuff like that.
Well, here's a good example of telemetry that people didn't want to deal with. So Visual Studio Code is pretty much become the de facto code editor for a lot of people, for a large swath of people.
Who don't use Vim or Emacs, basically.
Well, but it's a Microsoft product. There was telemetry in it, and you can get a version where they took the source code and basically stripped all that out. So there is a VS Codium.
They
Where-
didn't even have to strip it out, just had to compile it because the source code itself doesn't have the telemetry in it.
Right. Yeah.
It's
So
actually
there's
added after added by Microsoft. First they take the repository and then they add the telemetry. So if you compile
Got
it
it.
yourself, there is no telemetry in it.
Got it.
Oh, that's
so
clever.
that's an extremely popular and successful open source project where the people that object to it have a way to get, like Max Henry's saying in chat, he uses VS Codium. Great. It's binary compatible. Like he can use it and use all the extensions and all that stuff. The Arch group, they created one called Code, does the same thing. So anyway, I guess the point is that if someone's really that bent out of shape with it, you could take it and fork Audacity and take that out. And I mean, we saw that with GIMP. You know, people didn't like the name GIMP, so they created Glimps, and that's kind of the point of open source, right? I mean, I guess what I don't like to see is that people are just going to go to their source code page and file, you know, open bugs and say, and just yell at them. Well, yell at them basically, right?
Yell at them to remove telemetry because there is telemetry, and it's apparently a bug. Just a note about the VS Code forks and the extensions. You can only use the extensions that are open source and aren't uploaded to the Microsoft Store, because Microsoft Store only allows usage for those that are used on the original Microsoft version of.
But that would be on Windows though, right? Because it's the Microsoft Store.
Wherever it's a internal
VS
Code store.
Okay.
But if it's open source, and even if it's open source, you can compile it yourself, or there are other compatible stores like OpenVSX by Eclipse guys. Those can be used as well, even if it is like the copy of it is uploaded. But you cannot, let's say, download from Microsoft's VS Code repository and install it into your clone or your fork, because that does break the license agreement you do when you go to the store itself.
Got it. Okay. Well, I mean, besides, I didn't know that myself. I guess I only use a very small handful of extensions myself.
I wouldn't even know that, but I tried to use the clone fork called Thea, which is Eclipse Thea.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the great features of it, you can easily run it in a browser.
Oh, okay.
And I actually researched into if I can use the Microsoft package repository for VS Code to use those extensions, and the answer is, unless you get it from somewhere else, no.
Well, and the other thing, just to sort of kind of to be completely, I guess to explain it completely, is VS Code still asks you. It's still an opt-in system, as far as I know. I don't believe it's. I mean, I know that when I've installed it fresh, it always says at the bottom, do you want to share with Microsoft? Now, I don't know if that's like 100% one of the way or the. I don't know.
In theory, yes. At least from what they say, it should be.
Yeah.
And there are other ways you could disable it as well. And in theory, as far as they say, when you opt out, when you say no, it should be absolutely no.
So it sounds like most people that have at least voiced an opinion are okay with telemetry, especially in the open source. Oh, I'm sorry, Thomas, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
So I was going to say something that people don't realize a lot about telemetry and usage reporting and stuff like that is bug hunting. As a developer myself, I only have so much time and manpower to do bug testing. And because of that, basically all the code that I send out has bugs in it. there's no way that I can stop that. The best that I can do is send out that buggy code, and then when people start reporting to me that there are bugs, I fix those bugs, issue an update, and just keep iterating like that. That's the best I can do. Or I can get usage information or some sort of telemetry. And I know people don't like that telemetry or usage reporting, but the thing is, if someone is using your application in a way that you don't expect, which is going to happen whether you like it or not, then they're going to find a bug that you may not know of. And if they're not part of your community, or if they don't want to be part of your community for whatever reason, then you have no way of knowing about that bug other than if they report it. So, for instance, the only application I have ever made that has any sort of reporting whatsoever is the system installation utility in Jogger OS. And it is opt-in only, and you can choose exactly what you want it to send, and you can see exactly the file that I see. That way, if you say that, okay, I selected everything just to see what it would send, and I don't want him knowing what all of my PCIe devices is, because I have that enabled so that if somebody comes to me with an issue saying, hey, my Wi-Fi card isn't working, what can I do? I can go, okay, what's the installation code? And I can go look up that installation report and go, okay, this is what your Wi-Fi card is. You have a Broadcom Wi-Fi card. Here's what you can do to install the Broadcom Wi-Fi drivers, and etc. Or if it's not Broadcom, but they're still having issues, I can go, okay, is this in the kernel? Yes, no. If it's not, make an issue asking to add support for it. That sort of thing. Basically, it helps me fix bugs.
So just from a basic blanket standpoint, then, I mean, what if you weren't restricted and people wouldn't know any better? I mean, would you gather gobs and gobs of data, or do you think it was really just there's a certain amount that makes sense, and then beyond that?
There's an amount that makes sense, and beyond that, I don't really see the point of it. Okay. So the reason I say that is what people also don't realize is there's some sort of infrastructure to handle that data. And the amount of data that you have, the more that you pull in, the more infrastructure you have to have fleshed out to handle that data. Mm-hmm. For instance, the only data I ask for is what CPU you have, what your PCIe devices, which includes your GPU, how much RAM you have, your disk layout, and the installation log. You can send a custom message along with it if you so desire, but that's the only things that I ask for. And like I said, you can opt out of certain things.
Yeah.
And that's all I really want, because I don't care about your USB devices. I could care less what the resolution of your screen is. I could care less whether you're using, KDE or GNOME or XFCE on my OS. Yes, I won't support the desktop if it's not XFCE, but you know what? It's your installation. I could care less.
I guess we look at, some of the bad actors and people who are, examples of telemetry. I'm out to say Windows because that's probably the worst one we can all think of. So maybe those examples have made us very sensitive to this, but what do you think drives that initial sort of just like, no, like telemetry bad. What is it all just from that commercial software standpoint, or I don't know.
So for me, it was that initial commercial software. They're getting a lot of information. And the more I've used Linux and had to go and use a computer that had Windows on it, the more I've realized how long updates take, how slow the networking is in comparison to Linux, things like that. And I'm no networking guru. I barely know the difference between TCP and UDP, honestly. But at the same time, there are times where I can only really chalk up the difference in networking performance on very, very, very similar hardware, sometimes literally the exact same computer. The only difference is running Windows versus running Linux. And the only difference in what I'm doing is telemetry, or the fact that I'm running Chrome versus Firefox. And, and sometimes, you know, that telemetry can make a huge difference. Like somebody in here earlier was saying, I don't remember who, I'm sorry, was saying that, I think it wasn't actually you, who said they had a friend who you were repairing their laptop and they discovered that the Linux wasn't taking up as much of their bandwidth.
It was Jinda.
Jinda. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm terrible. But that's a perfect example right there. I don't have that issue personally because my ISP, I just have a speed and I run at that speed and I don't really have a data cap. But I know not everybody's like that. I know in some like rural areas, or if you're in a low income situation, that's what you have. And if you're on Windows, that can significantly impact your quality of life. Because if you're a high schooler and you need to turn in your essay and it's, 5 till and it's due at midnight and you're trying to get it turned in, and then all of a sudden, oh, no, sorry, you ran out of data, no more internet for you because of Windows updates, that's unacceptable. And if you had been running Linux, or if you were able to get service without that data cap, then you would have had a much better quality of life. And in that instance, your teacher doesn't care whether or not your internet got cut off right as you were about to turn in that file. They're going to say, you know what, too bad. You didn't turn it in? Oh, well. And that's the way the world works. And because of those updates and because of that telemetry, I get it. Sometimes it can be an issue. Personally, most of the stuff I use, I don't do the background telemetry because I want the most bandwidth possible. And I don't know what they're sending. I want to be able to see what they are sending. That's my criteria. If I can see what you are sending, then I will give you a legitimate think. So the Ubuntu installation, afterwards, when they ask if you want to send data, if it's not in a VM, I'll send it. Why not? Sure. Because I've looked at it. I know what they're sending. And I'm cool with it. And
also, you should also send it in VM.
Right, like
most of us do.
Yeah, I get it with the VMs. Like you get swarmed by them, you don't care.
Tell that to Bill, who basically runs a VM after VM. Yeah, and I think he still does use does send the telemetry.
Yeah,
I'd like to jump in on that thing about school stuff. Is my son's in the first grade, and they give him Chromebooks. So last year they did the in-school, and then they did like a hybrid type of thing where part of the week they were in school, part of the week they were out, and they would bring them the Chromebook. Well, a couple days, my son forgot to bring it home, or maybe didn't have the charger for it. Well, there's an app, not really an app, but a plugin for Chrome browser. And I just use Chromium on my Linux laptop that I'm using now, and I installed the little thing that they use and synced his Gmail account through the school, and it loaded all of his stuff, and he could do everything. And I'm running Linux. It's just everything's in browser anymore.
Yeah, Chromebooks are running browser as a window manager, which is just fun.
And I think there was only one thing he couldn't do from my laptop once I had it all running on there and logged in with his stuff, and the teacher was like, "You're the only person that's ever figured out how to do that." It's like, well, I'm probably the only parent of all the kids in your classroom that does the kind of things that I do.
Probably. Well, distribution testing is something a lot of us in the BDLL community like to do. So I don't know if there's anything that people are watching on, like it or not, DistroWatch is a good source for watching distros. I'm not so much the ranking, I don't care about that, but as far as distro news is concerned, and so there's some things coming down the pike. Open Indiana, it's an open Solaris operating system. I have not touched Solaris since the mid-aughties. It's like 2006, I think, is the last time I touched Solaris. But it's a new release, 2021.4, 04. I don't know if anyone is interested in that at all. I'm not sure what the why someone would use Solaris. Like, I don't know what the unique feature of it is, but it's an
It's
open
been
source.
a while. Yeah, now that you said that, it's like I'm trying to remember. I know I did try it 10 years ago, but why did I try it? Maybe it was just curiosity. Yeah.
The young guy who was here last week, who was the same birthday as me, I forgot his name. Kai. He runs Open Solaris.
Oh, that's right.
Open Indiana.
Yeah, I wonder what the unique. Too bad he's not here, because I'd ask him. So what's unique about Open Indiana? Like, why? I mean,
and there are use cases. I'd have to think. Yeah.
So, Elementary version 6 beta is out. So I don't know if anyone here's an Elementary fan. I know Schickel, who I haven't seen him in a while. He's known to like the Elementary OS.
Yeah, it's got some. It's beta right now, obviously, but it's interesting as always.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very interesting, unique take on the Linux desktop, and they've done really cool things with the dark theme and some other stuff.
It says a major shift for Elementary OS 6 is the inclusion of Flatpak apps out of the box. So that's cool.
That's not working at the moment. That's one of the things that's not quite. And they may have fixed it by now. That I'm not sure. And I know if you are a paying customer, that you get snapshots, so you probably see updates. Whereas I think the public beta was just that snapshot. So I don't think you continue. I don't know. It seemed like to me that I got one that was like, it was like 4/29, 4/30, like at the end of April, and it didn't seem like it was updating beyond that. So, but anyway, it is really interesting, and definitely worth checking out if anyone feels like testing and giving feedback.
Yeah, it'd be great. If anyone's like, this is just discussion for next week. If anyone's tested out a distribution or whatever. Rocky Linux, that's on May 1st. Their RC release candidate 1 of version 8.3 is out. So it is a binary build of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. It's basically replacing the CentOS of old. So this should be interesting. I don't use Red Hat, so no real drive for me there. But I know a lot of people, many people use Red Hat. So if anyone's interested in that, give like a kind of kick the tires on Red Hat without kicking the tires on Red Hat. Rocky Linux. That that's coming out.
OpenBSD 6.9 came out last week.
Yep, that was next on the list. So way to read my mind, Daniel. So I'm not sure it's their 50th release, which makes sense. 6.9 50th release. I like it. That's fine. So there's only 2 remote holes in the default install. I'm not sure what those are, but yeah. So it'll run on Power 9 systems, Power 8. So that's interesting. Hardware I don't have, so I can't test that to find out for sure. Ghost BSD also has had a release. That's I believe that's it's based on FreeBSD. So I think what was it, Peter? He was doing. Was it you doing Ghost BSD or playing with that or some other BSD?
FreeBSD.
Okay.
Free BSD. Yeah. I would guess that they're all just going to update in turn now. Dragonfly BSD, OpenBSD, like they'll.
Not exactly.
No? Okay.
FreeBSD 13. Oh, you can barely see my face. Sorry, the lamp that would normally be here has been packed and. Okay,
it's fine.
But
turn up the brightness on your screen. It'll work out.
It's okay. We know you're there.
Okay, but there are actually like the various BSDs are not like really distros. Like they all came from the same place, the Berkeley Software Distribution. But NetBSD and FreeBSD both forked. But NetBSD and FreeBSD both forked off of in the primordial past a version called 4.3 BSD Lite way back in the day. OpenBSD forked off of NetBSD, and Dragonfly BSD forked off of FreeBSD. So basically, Dragonfly BSD, FreeBSD, NetBSD, and OpenBSD are all different operating systems. Every other BSD is a distro of something else, probably FreeBSD. So FreeBSD 13 came out like a couple weeks ago now, maybe a month. And so all of the FreeBSD distros like GhostBSD are getting updates.
Okay.
But yeah, the others, like the big four, just kind of have their own cadence.
Got it. Cool. Thanks for explaining that. I appreciate that.
And without unpatched browser exploits, we wouldn't have Linux on the PlayStation 3 and 4 because BSD is what the PS3, PS4 OS are based on.
Both of PS4 for sure runs FreeBSD. PS3 probably does. I had a developer I heard explain it as like PS3, we kind of suspected they were using FreeBSD because we saw some Sony questions on the mailing lists. PS4, we got somebody were like, come on, admit it, you're using FreeBSD. And they were like, yeah.
Yeah, they exploited the browser to sideload it and crash and then dump like kernel stuff. It was kind of hilarious.
That is funny.
It's like FreeBSD 10. Like, yeah, I can nmap my school network, which maybe is something I shouldn't be doing. I don't know. And at least until everyone moved out, I'm like, because I tried just like looking for my server because I forgot the IP address and I didn't have anyway. So I just tried an nmap scan and grep for FreeBSD, and I'm like, what are all these things? Oh, they're everyone's PlayStations.
I remember
Nice.
with PS3s, someone, I believe it could be U.S. Air Force, used them to make a computing cluster because basically they could load Linux on it, and they made a computer cluster, I believe, of PS3s.
PlayStation 2 had a kit that was released in the UK and the USA for a period of time with the there was an add-on to do online play for games like Final Fantasy 11 or something like that, or Final Fantasy Online. And so there was a part of that kit was also bundled with Linux. It was an educational bundle. So I think the PS2 was the one they first used to do that.
Well, cool. And perhaps the most exciting on this list, to finish it off, the development release of OpenSUSE 15.3 release candidate. That's also out. So if you want to try that, that's also on the list. I'm unabashedly almost have an almost unhealthy obsession with the project. So of course I'm going to slip some OpenSUSE conversation in there someplace. So anyway, so it is that time for a last word. And I think this is the part where Scrapjaw starts to play some outro music. So go ahead. So last word. We'll start, I guess, Eric, last word.
Well, if he's going to start playing, I think I'm just going to listen. You know, why would I ruin that? why would I ruin it? This is great. Like I said earlier, I really appreciate, Nate, that you and Vash, or however it worked to get this going again. It's great, and I hope we can keep some momentum going. And you know, I've been smiling for 2 hours. My cheeks are hurting. So anyway, it's great to see everybody. Have a great week, and hopefully we'll be back again next week.
And I want to thank you, Eric, for the usage of your Zoom. As much as I liked using Jitsi, it worked for what I wanted to do, but this just works a little bit better. So thank you very much, Eric.
Absolutely.
Peter, last word, buddy.
One of my greatest moments in the last week was one of my favorite podcasts called Tax Jam, TUXJAM, Tax Jam. Their slogan is mixing open source with Creative Commons goodness. And I just posted a link in the chat. They review independent distros and other free apps, open source apps, Creative Commons music. This last episode, they reviewed Solus. And all 3 guys gave a good review, so I'm very happy.
Excellent. Well, it's good. I'm glad to see they're still using Solus, because some things shouldn't change, and that's one of them. So thank you very much for being here, Peter. I do appreciate it. Jason, you made it again.
Well, yes, I made it again. I'm glad that 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 you and Nate had decided to take this on so that we can all come back together and just have a good place to hang out and chat, talk about Linux, tech, whatever the case may be, listen to music. And it's just a blast. Like Eric said, I've been laughing all night long. It's just a joyous time to get together and see you guys all again.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you're here.
Completely agree.
Eris.
Mr. Eris.
Thank you for the show, Eric and Nate. And see you next week.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Big Pod.
You kinda. I was half listening while writing next script for my YouTube videos, so yeah.
So half listening.
I'm trying to make proper scripts for YouTube videos, so they are at least half good. Because otherwise they would be totally bad.
That's fair.
Tangent Town is a big thing for me.
I get it.
So,
well, thank you very much.
See you next time.
Thank you very much, Big Pod, for being here. I do appreciate you contributing to the conversation. Thomas.
Well, thank you again for having this week. It was nice. I was surprised we were going back to Zoom, but I'm happy we did. Nothing against Jitsi, but I haven't used Zoom at all throughout all of COVID, ironically.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Weird.
Other than that, I'm just going to slot in my little bit of Drugger OS stuff here. I actually had the 3-year anniversary of it this past week. And whenever we have that, we put out a video called our State of the Product Address. You can watch another video that explains it. I didn't explain it in that one because it's long and who cares. But there will be another video later that explains it.
Do you wear a suit?
I did not.
Okay.
I do not.
I would appreciate next time you wear a suit.
I'm too casual to do that, bro. I mean, come on. I'm wearing this shirt, which you guys can't read because it's backwards, in the middle of this.
No, I can see it normally.
It's only backwards for you.
Yeah.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
It looks fine to
Perfect.
us, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm getting ready to put a link to it in the group chat. So yeah, go check that out. Lots of cool stats. If you don't want to watch it, that's okay. I'm gonna be posting a blog post later with all the actual importance. So yep. See you guys next week.
Sounds good. All right. Jinda.
Oh, guys, thank you so much. Nate and Eric, thank you for doing this. It was fun. It was a blast. And I'll see you guys next week. And thanks for putting up with me.
No, really happy to have you, man. Glad to see you join in. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, do appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Daniel Bornt, if I said it right.
Yep. No, you got it. Man, I knew I missed it, but then being back here, I realized how much I missed it. Like, this had been such a big part of everything. And just thank you to Nate for picking this up and Eric for the Zoom, and just, yeah, this is like a happy place, man. So let's try to keep it up and just have fun and enjoy each other's company, man. Everybody have a great week.
You too, Daniel. Thank you. Mr. Stevenson? I'm thinking you're there. I kind of see like a shadow.
Yeah,
an outline,
I'm here.
You know, okay, all right.
It's great to be back again. I wish I was able to chime in more, but it was still great to listen to you guys. And I hope to see you all again next week.
Now, listen, you gave us some BSD knowledge, and you let us know about your interesting summer coming up. I'm actually slightly jealous about that. That actually sounds like a lot of fun, believe it or not. So.
Steve.
Yes. We're live? No.
Yep.
It's a good way to spend Saturday night again. Thanks, Nate, and thank you, Eric, for helping him out tonight.
I need
guys
all
are
the
up
help
in
I
about
can get.
11 hours. Come on, visit me in the morning.
You
Yes,
betcha.
for folks that don't know, Steve does a stream on Sunday mornings. So stop by and check it out. Jojo, good to see you this evening. Nice
Hey,
to
you.
make your acquaintance.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for letting me plug my YouTube channel, and thank you for subscribing. And I enjoy being here. And I haven't used Zoom in about a year. I was one of those people in the camp who's like, I never want to use Zoom again. But
this is different.
But no, this is fine. Plus, I mean, what's great about it is you can, have a custom background if you want to. And so with that being said, never mind. It's not gonna let me do it. I had this joke lined up, but forget it.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Next time.
Super Nintendos are limited.
That's right.
And finally, Scrap, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, not her. Thanks for being here.
No problem.
And taking us out with some cool tunes. But last word. Can you talk and play at the same time?
I could try. But yeah, this is cool hanging out. I was on the couch and saw the live stream was up. I was like, I ain't seen a live stream up in a minute.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'll just hop on my phone, and then it's like, all right, I think I can go hook it up upstairs and jam and whatnot.
I think what we need to do is find Scrapjaw an opportunity to do like a late night talk show, because you could totally be like the guy rapping with the host. I see it. I can see it, right?
Well, the last year I did a podcast, the Aquarium Guys, and I edited for that, and I popped in every so often on the episodes. So if you're into fish and you like that kind of stuff, warning, family friendly is not a label on this one. But the host was into Linux and stuff, and we kind of hit it off that way, and I helped him out through last year. And then life got busy, and now, back to working and everything. But I have my weekends, and I come hang out with y'all.
Cool. And very glad you did. Well, I want to thank you all for joining both in the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream. I'd like to thank Rocco for starting the Biddle community, Eric once again for the use of his Zoom account so that it could go a little bit smoother this time, and everyone involved in making Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but have fun and enjoy the technology that we have. So Linux truly puts personal back in personal computer. Until next time, see yous.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.